If crocheting is bad, I don't want to be good. I don't think you want to be good either. So let's get naughty together. Hi, my name is Sig. This is Crochet and Fiber, and you, of course, are always welcomed here. In today's video, I'm going to be talking knitting looms, specifically sock knitting looms. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, stick around. You might learn something. I know I did. I really didn't realize there was so much to the different looms. I mean, I guess when I look back on it, I think, well, duh. But, you know, I guess if you don't know, you don't know, right? At any rate, so looms. What I wanted, or what I was looking into, was a knitting machine. Because I'm not interested in knitting sweater per se. I can nook for that if that's what I want. I'm not interested in making knitted blankets. You know, I like crocheting for that. That's where I prefer to crochet. And crochet is so versatile that I can get many stitches that look like knit if that's the look I'm going for, feel like knit, sometimes maybe a little thicker, but a knitted look nonetheless. I can get that with crochet, so I don't need to do that. And I once learned how to knit a little bit, and yeah, you can see I don't do it. My daughter continues to knit. We took a class together once upon a many years ago, and I don't like the way it feels in my hands. I don't like the way it feels, like the twisting part of it really affects, like some people, they feel the effect of kind of a carpal tunnel feel or effect when they crochet. I don't get that. But when I knit, I get that kind of in my shoulder, my right shoulder. I really kind of feel that kind of carpal tunnel sort of a situation. And so that, coupled with the clicking sound of knitting needles, yeah, I don't like it. And so I crochet. However, I do love me a good pair of handmade socks. And so that's what I was looking at knitting machines for, specifically for socks, right? I don't want to make a whole bunch of socks if I can avoid it. I mean, I don't mind doing the trim or like specialty socks I'm good with, but if I'm just making straightforward, normal, everyday socks with my sock yarn that I happen to have, then, you know, I'm going to get pretty bored pretty quick. So that's where a knitting machine really starts holding some appeal for me. So I initially figured, well, you know, a professional actual sock knitting machine is going to be quite expensive. And I looked into those. And yes, they are quite expensive. So one that you can purchase, the lowest cost one that I found that was actually specifically designed for knitting socks, started off at about $800. And then of course you have to buy the different attachments for it, the different attachments that have different needle amounts in them, right? So you can go up to well over 100 needles or down to, let's say 22 needles. Similarly, that's kind of where it starts. Now, to go to the higher end of one of these machines that you can have, particularly in a home environment, you're looking at anywhere from $8,000 to $5,000. My budget's not that fluid. I'd love to have a fluid budget like that. I'd love to say, oh yes, please, I'll take one of those. But my world doesn't work quite that way. So I had to keep looking. And so the next thing to look at was the Aldi machines. They have the two. They have the one that's a 22 needle, and then they have the one that I think is a 46 needle. Yeah, a 46 needle. Well, it tells me that it'll do socks, but I wasn't really sure. You know, 46 stitches didn't seem quite enough for socks, especially since I've nooked some socks already. I've crocheted several pairs of socks already. So 46 needles just didn't seem quite near enough. So I needed to research a little more. And what I found was, of course, the smaller Audi just wasn't going to work. 22 needles was not enough. It's okay for some projects, but not what I was looking for. And then, of course, the larger one, which was going to be between $200 and $300, and the smaller one usually runs between $100 and $200. The larger one being the 46 needles. That one turned out it wasn't enough needles either. I mean, I could make socks with it, but they would be like slipper socks. You'd use a slightly heavier weight yarn, although they don't really recommend using a worsted weight yarn. So a 4 and higher is typically too much for an Aldi machine. Although I did read a couple of reviews where some people said they did work with a worsted weight yarn. So I'm suspecting that it was more of a light 4 rather than a solid 4 weight yarn. But at any rate, so what really came across to me was that the 46 needle Aldi machine would give you not the sock that you wanted. You were going to end up with something more like a slipper sock, a thicker sock, a looser sock, something that maybe you would not wear every day in terms of, just going out with. So while I could afford $200 or $300 for a machine that knits socks, I want one that actually knits socks using a more appropriate amount of needles. So that led me to start looking into looms. I simply figured most looms were built pretty much the same. I mean, obviously I realized there's bigger ones and smaller ones, but it didn't occur to me that the looms themselves were going to have, different pegs or different amounts of pegs, bigger pegs, smaller pegs, different shaped looms. And so I'll shave all those other larger looms for a different day because they're clearly not for sock making. And I'll just shoot right over to the sock looms. Now, I was kind of shocked because there are a lot of sock looms out there, and it didn't occur to me that even the instruction books for these sock looms was not a one size fits all. In fact, you really need to take a close look and make sure that the pegs on your sock loom are going to accommodate the amount of pegs that they use in the book for your sock instructions. And seeing that there aren't a lot of instruction books out there for such things, it gets a little tricky, especially if you don't know. I didn't know. I sort of learned as I was researching things, but I'm telling you right now, if I had just gone into it and bought one cold, I would have been sadly disappointed and a little frustrated. So out of all the research I did and what I could find that was readily available in terms of sock looms, I'm just going to go ahead. I know this has been a long introduction and I apologize. I will go ahead and I will break down the looms, or rather the sock looms that I thought were the best and why. Okay, so quickly, I learned that when making a pair of socks that you might want to wear every day, you want like at least 50 to 60, preferably 66 pegs for most standard knitted sock patterns. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's something similar to that. And of course, the Aldi machine, their biggest machine, wasn't even going to come close. It was 46 needles. So that doesn't come close. That's not helpful. And so it completely goes away off the table. Now, I looked at lots of different small looms that could be used for sock or were advertised as sock looms. And again, there just wasn't enough pegs. Some of the knockoff looms, while they looked similar to the looms I'll show you here in a minute, they really weren't. In fact, the pegs weren't designed in a way that made sense in terms of easy loom work, in terms of using the hook to weave your yarn around the loom. I suppose you could do it, but it wasn't going to be nearly as easy. So let's just get into the very first loom I was looking at. And this brand, this KB brand right here. Now, this sock loom was interesting And this goes for fine gauge. So I don't think they make this bigger. I don't think you can use anything other than a finer yarn. And when I say fine yarn, I'm talking between a 0 to 1. I think you could probably use a DK on this, but I think you're really pushing your luck or pushing your limits, even though I think you probably could swing something like that with this in terms of a heavier weight yarn. Certainly not a chunky. You might be able to get a light 4 around these pegs, but it's definitely going to be between a 0 and a 3 that you're going to use on this particular sock loom. And they recommend you using fine yarn, so basically a 0 through 2 weight yarn. Now this comes with 2 looms in it, and the medium loom has 56 pegs, and the larger loom has 64 pegs. So the smaller loom is basically what you're going to make a medium woman's size sock from, and the larger loom is what you're going to make a large size sock from. And in this kit, you're going to get a little hook. I have a hook that's already out. And so you can see that this little hook right here, let me see if I can get it up close. Maybe not. Oh. Anyways, I don't know if you can really see it here very well, but the tip is very sharp. That's something you definitely want with your hook for a loom. You want a very sharp tip so that you can more easily pick up your yarn with it. Now, some of the knockoff looms that you're going to see, they come with a very blunt, thick hook, and that's pretty much useless for you, and you'd be disappointed. The good news, though, is that the more name brand looms, so for example, the first loom I'm showing you is the KB in terms of a commercially purchased loom, right? And then the other ones are going to be the threads and loops. Or rather the loops and threads brand of loom. And that one I'll show you last. But that one also comes with a very sharp hook. In fact, this is the hook that goes to that one. So this comes with the appropriate amount of pegs. So you got 56 and 64. So they're at the low end of the pegs that you want in terms of making a pair of socks, but they're going to make you a fine pair of socks. And I'll give you an example of what that looks like here in just a moment. Now, the book that comes with this KB set, I think it only gives you instructions for like a basic pair of socks. So you're going to want to locate a book, which can be tricky, especially if you're new or you don't really know what you're doing, or you need some help, i.e. a pattern that is already prepared for you that will fit this loom. And I located a book just for you, just to do that. And it's this book right here. The author is Acela Philps. And this loom knitting book is going to accommodate this set of looms quite nicely. They recommend more a round style loom that you'll see, but really it's the count of the pegs that's really important. And so let me show that to you again. So if you purchase these looms, this book is the book you want to get. And I think you'll be really happy with that. It'll work out quite nicely for you. Now, the next loom that I have for you, this one is also from KB, and it's really interesting. I haven't seen anything like it before, and it comes in multiple sizes. And each size, well, it comes in 4 sizes, and each size is going to accommodate a different size yarn. So you're going to start off with the size Biddy, and the Biddy is going to accommodate a 0 through size 2 yarn. And then you're going to have the Skinny, and the Skinny is going to accommodate a size 2 to 3 weight yarn. And then you're going to have the Regular, which is going to accommodate a size 3 through 4 weight yarn. And then you're going to have the chunky. And now that one's going to accommodate a 5, 6, maybe even a 7 weight yarn if that's what you're looking to use. And this right here, I got a box of the bitty size. And it's really interesting because it's these links. Let me give you a short look. And you put the links together, and the links are going to give you a count of whatever you want for your loom. So that's really cool because the box itself isn't very expensive. It comes in at just under $20. And for just under $20, you're looking at up to 148 peg option, which isn't bad. And if you want more than 148 pegs, you just buy another box of links that you're going to put together in order to create your loom. And so I thought that was quite fascinating. And this one also, or does it? I don't know. Let me look real fast here. I'm going to see if it comes with a hook because I haven't really pulled anything out of here yet. Yep, it comes with a hook, a sharp hook, a very sharp hook, and then you have these pegs. Now, KB's is really interesting because their pegs have a nice comfortable slot in it, and that slot makes it super easy for you to take the hook and get up underneath the yarn as you pick up the yarn to yarn over in your looming process. The Loops and Threads brand also has that same groove in the peg so that you can use your hook to easily lift up the yarn and pull over as you need to. Now, some of the knockoff brands that I saw did not have that groove. So not only do they typically come with a very blunt hook, they don't come with a groove. So I can't imagine that looming experience being as easy as it otherwise could be, or as smooth as you otherwise might like it to be. Okay, so now what I'm going to show you is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you the other option. And the other option in terms of looms is going to be the Loops and Threads. And see, my bag looks like this. This is where it came from. You see them, KB has one that looks just like this, except the frame is made from wood. And this Loops and Thread brand is made from a very durable plastic. And so this is what we have. And as you can see, I started making the sock. This is a medium-sized sock. So it's a 56 pegs that I've used to create this sock. It's an adjustable frame. So basically, you're just going to turn the knob and you're going to adjust the frame to whatever size you want. So this will give you a total of 60 pegs if you're going to use all the pegs on this frame. One of the things I like about this frame, however, is maybe it doesn't have the 64 pegs that you might want, but what it is it's adjustable, and this is for the use of fine yarn, and you can adjust this all the way down and make socks for little ones, or make little booties, or something along those lines. This particular frame, as you could do with the adjustable frame with the links, you could use this to actually make, let's say, scarves. So there's still a lot you can do with this frame, and I got started, and I think you can see the cuff of the sock. And so in terms of affordable sock frames, this frame or this frame or these frames, any of these sets, depending on where you purchase them from, is going to cost you anywhere from $15 to $30. So that makes it super affordable, easy to explore, just to see if you're interested in it. Now, in terms of this frame, yes, there's that other book that specifically has patterns for this frame, and that is this Leisure Arts Sock Loom Basics. And so they offer this book. It has a lot of pretty decent patterns, especially if you're learning, that work specifically for this kind of a frame. Now, this again is a loops and thread frame, and the frame you see on the front of this is pretty much the same concept, except this is a KB frame. So, what do I think of it? Well, I was under the impression, and maybe if I were practicing it, it would be 3 times faster than standard knitting. And maybe it is. I don't knit, so I guess I don't have anything to base any real comparison off of. But I found it not any faster or any slower than if I were actually crocheting. Um, it's definitely a different movement. So some of you are going to decide that you like this much better, and others of you aren't going to be so enamored with it. I guess it really just depends on each individual. I'm personally not that enamored with it. Not that I think there's anything wrong, and it works real smooth. So in terms of all of that, I like it. So I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying it may not be for me, but it was something I wanted to explore and talk to you about it. Now, there may be some of you out there who love your knitting frames, and I respect that. I've seen some beautiful work come off the knitting frames. I think for me, I need to enjoy it tactily speaking, if that makes sense to any of you out there. So for me, if the movement or the motion that I have to make in order to create the socks isn't, I don't want to say pleasurable, but for me, a repetitive motion can be quite enjoyable and quite relaxing, or it could be like nails on a chalkboard for me. And so that doesn't make the thing better or worse in terms of its function or the beauty that can be created from it. It just means I'm really, really weird in terms of that. So I think my knitting frames are I'm going to put them up for sale at some point. And move them along to a household that's going to appreciate them more than me. But with that said, I think they're great. I I really I was really happy with the quality that was offered by KB and the quality that was offered by Loops and Threads, because some of the other stuff that I saw was just, it was just junk. It wasn't going to hold up to any real regular use, in my opinion. It wasn't made or thought out as nicely as it could have been. Now, there are plenty of like homemade frames out there where somebody used a nail. There are different frames where it looks more like a large staple. So you don't, in that situation, you don't need a groove. You just have that big opening in the staple that you can easily slip your hook through in order to grab the yarn you need to grab and continue your weaving process. And those might work out great too. I don't know. I didn't really try one of those. I just wanted to kind of keep it cheap and try these. But I'm glad I did, because now I know that all looms are not created relatively equal, and that when you're out looking to purchase a book or instruction books, you really want to be cognizant of the amount of pegs you have to work with and what the instructions of the book are telling you in terms of how many pegs they're using for their socks. So that can be tricky. Otherwise, I think the looms are great. I really appreciated the looms that I got. I thought, again, good quality. I've seen so many other looms that were fascinating and interesting, and I understand people who loom just love it. And like I said again, and now I'm rambling. So to save you, to save me, we'll just say, yeah. So yeah, we really took a rambling, meandering trip around the barn this week, but I hope all in all you enjoyed this month's kit and pattern review of sock weaving looms. More importantly, I hope you got something out of it. I hope this was a little more education, gave you a little more food to thought in terms of a sock loom you might be interested in exploring in the future. Okay, now I'd like to encourage you to be safe and have a most wonderful weekend. Bye-bye now.